Everybody, I want to welcome you to another episode of the Advisory Board podcast, where we bring in experts from the franchise industry and other industries to share wisdom and insights that can help you build a brand that will last. I've got with me today Natasha, who is the CEO not the founder, but the CEO of the Blushington Holdings. And this is a really interesting group and an interesting franchise concept that's newer to the scene, but already expanding. So I can't wait for her to tell us a little bit more about what they're doing at Blushington. But let me tell you about her. And I should probably say her full. I didn't see her last name, Natasha Cornstein, right? I apologize. I totally
Well,
slipped right
thank you
over
for
that.
having me. That's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. So, Natasha, guys, she is here because she's got some really interesting insights to share about customer experience and diversity and inclusion as part of their business model. So I want to get to those. But let me brag on her for a minute first, and tell you a little bit about why you want to hear from Natasha today. She is a top 50 beauty leader by Glossy Magazine, 2024 Beauty Tastemaker by Harper's Bazaar Magazine, Beauty United Mentor for Women of Color, co-founder of the Courts of Dreams Foundation, which is so cool, like refurbishing inner city basketball courts,
Yes.
and also an avid Steelers fan, an NFL fan, which I didn't see that one coming, by the way. And she's also an avid reader, guys. So first hour of every day she spends reading. So I found her to be already, we've only been talking for a little bit here, but very well informed, articulate, things that typically I find correlate quite well with people who read quite a bit. So can't wait to learn more from you, Natasha, today. But would you tell us a bit more about Blushington and what you guys have going on there?
Absolutely.
Yeah, please.
Absolutely. And Dave, thank you so much for having me and thank you for that great introduction. I always say I'm beauty by day, sports bar with my husband and my son by night. So I have a very rich, full life. But really, in a nutshell, Blushington is all about the experience to make our customers feel beautiful and confident. We always say confidence looks great on you. So the essence of Blushington is coming in, having personalized beauty experiences. That's makeup applications, blowouts, skincare services with a pro makeup artist that is trained to listen to you. So you come in, it's about a conversation. You have a glass of champagne if you'd like. Of course, we can serve you water, but a lot of our guests go for the bubbly. And it's a one-on-one experience, and it is the essence of who we are at Blushington.
Wow, that sounds kind of amazing. And uh, even in the way you describe that, your focus is on helping people develop confidence or feeling beautiful.
Yes.
It seems like you guys have. Oh, before I ask that question though, but you guys are already opening locations, right? Don't you have a couple locations opening?
We absolutely do. We are really proud of our flagship location in New York City. We're right on 57th Street in the heart of Manhattan. It is a beautiful store that I hope you'll come to visit. And even more excited to share with you that we're opening in Boca Raton, Florida this fall, as well as Houston, Texas. And what's truly amazing about these first two openings is that both of our franchisees are longtime Blushington customers.
Love that. Well, that doesn't surprise me though, right? Because when you build a truly remarkable experience,
Mhm.
you become very memorable and impactful on people's lives. And
Yes, it's really I people ask me what is it like at Blushington? And it's a community. It's more than just coming in for a service. Sometimes people say it while it's a very luxurious, beautiful environment, they call us sometimes the cheers of beauty services. Everybody knows your name. It's comfortable, it's warm. There's nothing intimidating about coming into a Blushington. And for many, many women in particular, beauty can be very intimidating. So
Mhm.
we take the intimidation out of that.
That's incredible. My wife has shared with me a few times, and she's a beautiful woman with very, platinum blonde hair and bright blue eyes, but she's gone in to get her hair done a few times, and people have been unnecessarily critical or said things that made her feel really uncomfortable and almost kind of small in the chair. And I mean, she went through cosmetology school, and even then she doesn't feel
Wow.
confident when she was getting her hair done. So sounds like
Well,
you've kind of,
That's the opposite of how we would want anyone to feel. We want you to feel like you're being embraced into a warm hug when you walk in through the door. We want you to love your time at Blushington, enjoy the music, enjoy the conversation with your artist, or just take time for yourself for a quiet 45 minutes while you get your beautiful blowout and your makeup done. And our customers have confidence that their experience is personalized. So what may feel like glam to someone might feel like very natural makeup to another. If
Hmm.
you may want big, bouncy curls, you might say that, but actually you want very straight hair. So it's always a conversation, and we make sure that no one leaves, or we do our best to make sure that no one leaves without feeling beautiful, confident, and heard.
Yeah, love that. Well, and this is the core of what we're going to talk about today. And this, I'm grateful that you shared that with us to start because we really want to talk about how customer experience can be a core part of a business strategy. And it sounds like it
Absolutely.
is for you. Natasha, can you tell us like how did that idea morph into a core pillar of what you guys were building at Blushington?
I think it really harkens back to my founder, Steffi Marin, who really did struggle with acne and in turn with her own confidence as a young woman. And when she created Blushington, she set out to create an environment where, again, everyone would feel comfortable. We created experience before this buzzword about experiential services began. We're experiential at our core. It's who we are. And when you talk about customer experience as the essence of a business model, it is about making sure that at every touch point you've thought through the customer experience. I say to my team every day, it's all in the details. It's in the detail of how somebody is greeted. It's in the detail of how immaculate your store is, your workstation. It's about tone of voice. It is about the experience of having your hair washed in a beautiful way,
Hmm.
not getting soaking wet, but being very mindful about every step of the process. And so experience starts with, I think, a real commitment to detail and to understanding that it's all those little details that add up to the overall feeling, the overall experience. And when
Hmm.
someone loves their experience, they're coming back. They're your best brand ambassadors. They're talking about your services. The next time they come in, you'll have developed the trust to try another service. Perhaps that's a second service from the first one that brought you in. So this business strategy is core to who we are as a management team and to our team members about creating memorable, beautiful experiences. But as the CEO of this company, creating impeccable experiences is what drives the bottom line.
Yeah, no, it does. And you've mentioned a few ways. We'll come back to that because I'd like to talk
Sure.
about outcomes and things in a
Yes.
moment. But the core of this whole kind of movement that you guys have emulated so well is that you're
Mhm.
trying to ensure that everybody who comes in feels heard and feels
Yes.
beautiful when they leave. Tell me about the portion of feeling heard. I feel like I wouldn't normally correlate that necessarily to a beauty experience, and so I find that unique. Can you tell us more about how that became part of it?
Absolutely. Again, from day one, it was so important to our founder, Steffi, that all of our customers felt listened to. You mentioned your wife's experience, and every woman can probably share, a terrible story where they sat, had their hair or makeup done, and didn't recognize themselves when they got out of the chair,
Hmm.
or didn't like the outcome, but maybe wasn't sure how to communicate it. So
Yeah.
from the very beginning, it was about being a destination where women of all backgrounds, ages, skin tones, hair textures would feel comfortable. And that starts with training. And specific to your comment about listening, about how you make that central to the experience, it is a key part of training at Blushington. And it starts with the recruitment and hiring process and understanding in this artistic space, it takes a very special, talented person to be great at hair, to be great at makeup. I don't know how often customers think about the hard work and the talent that goes into being a great professional hairstylist, a great professional makeup artist. So when we're hiring at Blushington, we're looking for that combination of talent and temperament. And in that temperament, we're looking for somebody that is collaborative, that doesn't have an ego when it comes to their artistry, that someone that's really willing to listen. And that's something I feel funny saying it now because I'm doing so much talking, but really core to my leadership style and core to what we look for when we hire at the artist level and also in our management team is, does this person have the ability to listen? Do they have a temperament that allows for flexibility? So I think that's really the foundation of the listening. We call it power listening.
Yeah, and I want to dive into power listening, but one, speaking quite a bit as the expert on a podcast is excusable, so don't feel self-conscious about that.
Thank you.
But let's talk about power listening. And by the way, backing up a second, whether it's beauty or food or home service or pet care or elderly care,
Yes.
any segment, automotive, good heavens, we wish that they would adopt this mindset in that industry. And some are, and they're doing excellent. They're doing excellent things. So I just want to make sure everyone listening, like, yes, we're talking about a wonderful beauty brand today, but this concept is so applicable across every concept in franchising or any business in general.
Hmm.
And so this the whole idea of being mindful of every stage of the customer touch points and journey. Love it. I'm taking some personal notes, thinking, I wonder how well we do at certain stages. We're actually reevaluating some of our processes to make sure at this point we feel like maybe we haven't given them the most exceptional experience. We're going to fix it. But
Hmm.
I want to come back to that, the process of evaluating and fixing.
Absolutely.
But talk about ego because I that is a challenge I think, especially when Manhattan hair and beauty care place. There are a lot of talented artists in that area. So how do you identify somebody who's willing to be collaborative and also isn't going to let their ego get in the way of the customer experience? Because I think that's a real challenge for people.
I think it is for many people. And I think this is an important aspect, again, of recruitment and of training, understanding the culture of the company, the execution, and really envisioning, will this person fit in? So we take our time with hiring. And I think that that's something that I would encourage whatever industry you're in. And I learned that by making a lot of mistakes. So I think
Same.
that what I learned is nothing, and I'm not going to say anything particularly unique here, but hire slowly and part ways quickly because you want to have a lot of harmony in your workplace. So I think that the way we approach it is that it's a multi-tiered interviewing process. So it starts with the phone conversation, it's an in-person meeting. And then, depending if it's an artist versus somebody in management, you are performing services as part of your interview. So there is a technical piece to the interview. And that's really applicable to anyone in the franchising services business. It's probably a great idea to see your team member in action. So I think really, again, it starts with the foundation. Is your foundation strong? And I would say our retention rate is one of the aspects of Blushington and the Blushington franchise model that I'm proudest of. Finding that path to retention has been really, I think, an outcome of a mutual respect of the power listening, not just for customers, but for one another. And retention is really important to experience, coming back to where we started, maintaining relationships, having excellent artists that your customers will see time and time again. And there's a reason our artists stay with Blushington, and that's a reflection, I really believe, of the power listening culture in large measure.
Well, and you've said it a few times now, so let's hone in on power listening because we've all heard of
Yes.
active listening, but This sounds like
Yes.
active listening on steroids. So would you
Yes.
explain what does power listening mean in the Blushington culture?
Power listening in the Blushington culture, and I always say to my team, power listening is for business and for life. And if you can practice it in all aspects of your life, you'll see a great improvement in my opinion, in the quality of your relationships. So we often think people are listening, they're being quiet, they're letting you speak, but they're thinking the whole time about what they want to say. So when I talk about power listening, I talk about being able to really dial in and hear what somebody is saying, whether you want to call it active or power. I think I use power listening because it takes a lot. You have to have a lot of empowerment on your team to not talk over one another, to know that they will be heard, that they will have a chance, and trying to remind myself and remind my team to just listen. Don't be thinking about your response or rebuttal or, taking the conversation in a direction. Give everyone the grace to listen. And I think when that happens, ideas become greater, execution becomes sharper, the
Mhm.
flexibility becomes more second nature, if that makes sense.
No, it absolutely does. Are there some mechanics to power listening that you teach your artists and your front desk staff as well?
I think it's modeling. I think it's modeling the action. I think it's letting somebody know that whether you're the CEO, whether you're in, maintaining the facility, that everyone's going to be listened to. And that starts with me. I know from my early 20s, there was nothing worse than being asked for feedback or asked for an opinion or taking the time to write out an idea and then you never hear back from anybody. And that's
Yeah.
very demoralizing. So,
Hmm.
something, that I've worked on showing my team is I'll listen and we'll talk it through. And I value your ideas. And if it's an idea that makes sense for the business model, that
Hmm.
will move us forward as a business and as a community, we'll action on it. It doesn't fall on deaf ears. So I think when you gain the trust of your team by listening, and that doesn't mean, Dave, that I'm always
Hmm.
going to take an idea or execute, but I'll certainly give the courtesy of a response. And I think when you set
Hmm.
that courteous environment, it's not that it's a particular training curriculum, it's a culture. And I
Hmm.
think we have a culture of listening, of being courteous and respectful to our customers, but also to one another. And as a CEO, understanding, and again, this came from learning and from making a lot of mistakes, understanding that in my seat, that our team is a constituency that's on par with our customers. So really understanding that helped me evolve as a leader.
Hmm. Have you seen Ted Lasso before,
I
Natasha?
love Ted Lasso.
Same, fell in love with it. Well, do you remember when he first got there and he put out the suggestion box, that scene?
Yes.
I love it so much. But
Yes.
I love that where the episode ends, which is Roy in the shower and the pressure always just like knocks that guy down. And you see the look on his face of, oh, this is like hardened Roy Kent, right? And
Yes.
he recognizes that he was listened to. And there's magic in that moment because all of a sudden the relationship changed, right? With between Roy
Yes.
and Ted Lasso. Great and kind of fun cinematic way to illustrate the point. But
Absolutely. And I can tell you, one of the services we recently introduced came from one of our artists. We
mhm,
introduced wig styling services. And
okay.
she came to me and said, we're doing blowouts. We have all of the inventory. We have the skill set. It was a brilliant idea. And I said, let's go explore it, and spent 6 months researching it, where she would go out and research. We would come back together, sit with our manager, talk through the ideas, competitive landscape, training for several months, a marketing plan. And so it was very exciting and rewarding for this idea to come from a team member and then have, an artist take a business plan and learn through to inception and incarnation of idea to coming live on the floor. And I think it's something incredibly gratifying. Again, it creates loyalty. It adds so much dimension to the business. Again, great ideas, culture, listening, that drops to the bottom line. That brings us a new customer.
Yeah.
The wigs are a $5 billion industry and growing. People wear wigs for fashion reasons, religious reasons, health reasons often. So to be able to bring this clientele in, expand our experience to wig wearers, again, great addition. Idea came from a team member. And from a business perspective, utilization of the same personnel, the same inventory.
Yeah, that's powerful. You know,
Yes.
and I think we have a tendency, or many leaders have a tendency to want to feel like the great idea is like I'm leading this place. Those ideas are coming from me, and that
Hmm.
often gets in the way of the best ideas, which come from the people that operate at the ground floor all day, every day. The thing that,
Absolutely. And
yeah.
I would say when I look back, I'm in my early 50s now. And when I look at some of the biggest mistakes I've made in my career, it was really wanting to have it be my idea, rushing. And, I can look, I would say, if I were to say in my skill set of talent, it might be to see several steps ahead and really how to take an idea and how to execute it.
Yeah.
But when I was younger, I wanted it, I wanted the credit, I wanted it to be my idea, I wanted it done fast. And my whole team was standing, in a different place. And so that has been actually a beautiful thing to learn.
Hmm.
And again, it took me time in my career to learn that. And now I think we've been able to be successful because I surround myself with people that are a lot smarter than I am, and I listen to them. Again, it's ultimately my decision. When you sit in the leadership chair, you own the decision, and you own the decision making. But being able to surround myself with smart people has been a game changer and something that I love about the franchising model, and adding exceptional franchise owners to our leadership team, because I
Hmm.
consider our franchisees leaders of the brand. And just with our very first two franchisees, the ideas that they've brought to the table, the perspective of seeing it through fresh eyes, has already helped us to improve our business model. So
Hmm.
I'm excited about bringing on incredibly talented owners that I'm going to learn from as much as they're going to learn from our decade plus of being in the business.
I love that. That's a constant point of contention and friction in franchising is sometimes the franchisor, there's a model, right? You guys have a model and
Yes.
it's great. It's great and they want to buy into it. But the model isn't the superpower of franchising. It's what you're just describing, which is the power of these brilliant operators working the model and then coming up with ways to innovate the model and improve upon the model that you've been improving for 10 years. It's the iterations that they can go through
Yes.
and it's that's the superpower, I think, is the continual innovation and morphing of this already great model into something even better because you have brilliant operators in the middle of it.
And I will tell you, we have been so fortunate as we transitioned Blushington from a corporate model with 10 years of experience to a franchise model, to have had the opportunity, from my perspective, to have worked with the best of the best in franchising. We were super diligent about doing our homework. We interviewed, I think, 12, 14 firms before we decided to work with iFranchise to
Hmm.
build our franchise program. And I may be biased, but I think our franchise attorney, Will Woods at Baker McKenzie, is arguably the greatest franchise attorney in the world. And what I learned with iFranchise and with Will is uh, this incredibly there's this dynamic tension, but not tension in a bad way. There's this just very dynamic relationship between franchisor and franchisee. And as we transitioned our model and created our FDD, I wanted to find a real balance in the relationship, where it's not as a franchisor being onerous to franchisees, but where there is this mutual respect for
Hmm.
the model and
Yep.
the systems and the operations, but respect for the ideas and the brain power that franchisees bring to the overall business community or our franchise community at Blushington. So I
Yeah.
find that one of the most fascinating aspects of franchising.
Yeah, and it can be one of the most challenging or rewarding,
Yes.
that you build. And I think the best brands in the industry, they've figured that out pretty well, and they listen, and I mean they actively, or I guess they use power listening, right? They're searching for feedback. They're listening and learning from their operators, and they're like you just shared that example of wig styling, and then they're
Hmm.
implementing. And
Hmm.
we didn't talk about this before, but my wife and I were also multi-unit owners of
I
franchise.
didn't know that.
Yeah, so we actually sold them in January to another franchise owner that was expanding, and I'm quite busy running a technology company here. Yeah,
Congratulations.
yeah. So, but it was so fun. Like one thing I loved about it, and I'm not sure how much the franchisor loved it as well sometimes, but was as I was operating in this business model, I figured out some ways to do things a little better than had been done before. And I don't mean that in any sort of braggadocious way, but just, they worked with a lot of schools, and I figured out a way to
Hmm.
just really have a high impact on the recreation departments, which I
Hmm.
personally found more rewarding because I thought, these are the kids in urban areas that need to have nice uniforms. Like they see all
Interesting.
these are the kids that often are watching more TV than the kids in suburbia because they have fewer opportunities to go outside. So they see
Hmm.
the cool uniforms of the pro ball players and they want to look like them. Then they show up for their first game and they're wearing a t-shirt that has like Dodgers screen printed on it. And they're like, ew, that's not the same. And so we were able to innovate and find ways to make that work well. And all of a sudden we built out this entire portion of the business that I had been told by other franchisees, I don't even bother. You can't do anything with that, which is for me is usually the trigger to say, oh, I'm going to go figure that one out now. Uh,
I think we share in that.
yeah, but then as we started to figure it out, to their credit, the executive team at the home office said, "Whoa, whoa, whoa! How are you doing this? Hold on, show us how. Can you teach everybody in our Monday calls?" And they really tried to harness that. And I think as an organization, all of the owners, I think they have about 30 different owners now. They all now understand better in their local markets how to sell to recreation groups and help them get better uniforms on kids. We had a lady tell us that a mom complained about her little boy because he wouldn't take his jersey, his basketball jersey off and to take a bath. It was creating problems at night. And I thought, that's the best win I've ever had in this business. So yeah, I love.
Absolutely. And look, I think that is, the hallmark clearly of a great franchisor and an action that I certainly would want to emulate. And there is this exquisite balance between franchisor and franchisee. And as a franchisor, really understanding that the best ideas will always come from your team in the field. They're on the front lines, they're interacting with customers, they're running your facilities. And so I think that this will be very enriching to the Blushington business model as we move forward and expand across markets.
Yes, and you'll also find there are different stylistic and beauty needs in different markets across the country. So you'll have to have a measure of flexibility. And I saw you went to school in the Midwest. I'm from the Midwest. Different
As
hairstyles.
am I.
Yeah. So different
Yes.
hairstyles there in St. Louis versus Chicago, even versus New York, or versus I live out in Utah now, Salt Lake City. Very different hairstyles. It's so I assume you'll have to have some flexibility and really continue your power listening as you open in those markets.
And really to align and to find owners that understand and are committed to the core values of inclusivity.
Hmm.
And I think if we maintain the excellence of our operations, the excellence and quality of our services, yes, you do adapt to the local community, to the local styles, because power listening and the experience is so core to who we are. I think it'll be a really seamless transition to understand what are the particular styles as you go into Dallas, as you go into a Salt Lake City, a Boca Raton, a Houston, understanding those nuances and really just delivering them the Blushington way.
Yes. And speaking of the Blushington Way, I want to make sure we have time to talk about the how did you um, begin to focus so much on inclusivity in in the way that you treat your clients, women of all ages and backgrounds and skin color and hair texture was something you've said multiple times to me even before we started this, and it feels like that is not rehearsed because it's rote, but rehearsed because it's important as part of one of your core values.
Yeah, it is the essence of who we are, both on the artist side and on the customer side. We bring this unique talent set together, and we understand that customers of all ages, all skin tones, all hair textures
Mhm.
have the desire to feel beautiful and confident. And for us to operate this business, it was really essential, excuse me,
Mhm.
um, it was really essential to us that we were able to deliver on that promise. And that starts with training, that starts with having the right inventory. And if you don't have that commitment, Dave, you can't live up to that promise.
Mhm.
It starts with it starts with having that in your brand DNA. It starts with having it in your training and in the inventory you carry. And it was truly essential to us starting in 2011, I think long before this became part of the business lexicon
Mhm.
of 20,000 to 2025. This is who we've been at Blushington since day one. So
So,
I talk about it because it is authentic to who we are. And I
mhm.
think it's what differentiates Blushington from others. And there's lots of room in the industry. I always welcome conversations with my competitors. I try to find camaraderie where it makes sense because there is room. We just want to do it the Blushington way. And at the core of that is being a destination where any customer can walk in and leave feeling confident and beautiful.
I love it. I love the way you describe
Thank you.
that. Natasha, I know that we've run out of time together today to continue on, but I do want to ask you an important question. So if there's somebody that's listening to this today and they say, "Man, I would love to talk to Natasha and pick her brain about any of the things we've talked about power listening, about building inclusivity into the business models, about really building these tools into the culture and of what they're trying to create with their brand." What's the best way for them to reach out to you?
The best way to reach out to me is on our Instagram. Send me a DM at Blushington. You can certainly write to me on our website, blushington.com. And I would love to have a conversation with anyone that's building their business. We can learn from one another. And if there are listeners out there that are interested in becoming the next Blushington franchisee,
Yeah.
they can certainly come to our website at blushington.com, fill out that inquiry form, and they will be getting on the phone with me personally.
Well, I love that. Well, it sounds like an
Yes.
incredible journey that you're about to start rolling out to in Houston and Boca Raton. Congratulations on that,
Thank you so much. I'm really proud of my team.
as you should be. Thanks again for joining us, Natasha. It's been a pleasure having you.
Thank you so much, Dave. Thank you for the opportunity.